Great. Good evening, everyone. It is January 13th, 2026, and the time is 6:08 p.m. I now call this meeting of the Urban Design Commission to order. Pursuant of Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025, this meeting of the Urban Design Commission is conducted via remote participation. We will make recordings available upon request as soon as possible after the meeting. My name is Estella Reganet, and I will be chairing tonight's meeting, and we will start with a roll call of commission members present. Frank Valdez, absent. Andrew Arba,
Present.
Deborah Fennick,
Present.
Tim Talon,
Present.
Martin Pavlinich,
Present.
and with four members present, we do have a quorum. And the first order of business is the approval of the September 23rd, 2025, October 14th, 2025, October 28th, 2025, and November 25th, 2025 meeting minutes. Does anyone have any comments or any things of note that should be corrected or amended?
So the September 23rd and the October 14th meeting minutes were already approved. And it's actually in the minutes from the 10/28 meeting.
You're so good, Tim. Thank you. So then now we will just move, if there are no comments, for the October 28th and November 25th meeting minutes. Any notes or comments on those?
Motion to approve.
Thank you. And a second?
Second?
Second by Tim, and a roll call vote. Andrew Arba,
Yes.
Deborah Fennick,
Yes.
Martin Pavlinich,
Yes.
and Tim Talon.
Yes.
And with that, this motion passes. And we will move to the next order of business, which are two design recommendations. The first being 205 Broadway and the case planner's kit. Again, no motion is required for this item, and the rules of policy and procedure simply state that the UDC needs to review the written recommendation once completed by the case planner.
So I have one comment on this
Sure.
one. One of the directions reads, study the corner column and consider a consistent brick cladding for all columns of the building. And I think what the commission discussed was that was more of a direction. It's something that needed to be done for consistency with the design guidelines that apply to this project. It wasn't really a request just to study it.
So provide instead of study.
Yes.
All right. Kit, loud and clear on your end.
Yep, got it. I'll make that change. Thank you.
And if there are no other comments on this, we can move to, wait, sorry. Is 205 Broadway also Alvaro? Or is Alvaro's a different?
205 Broadway is mine.
Okay.
Alvaro's is 6 Wheatland. That's the second
Okay,
recommendation.
thank you.
Okay.
So this is for an MR3 apartment building. And again, no motion is required, and the UDC just needs to review them, and once completed by the case planner, review the recommendations. So if there are any comments on that, please speak now, Commission. I'm seeing shaking heads. That's great. So we will let Alvaro know and move to design reviews. And so the first one will be 15 Elm and 2 Porter Street. And so can the participants presenting please raise their hands so we can elevate you all to presenters? And so I see Nick's hand raised, and Lexi will get to. And so the case planner for this project is also Kit, and it is for an MR3 general building. Just to note that members should propose a vote on the facade, design guidelines, massing options, and any other additional design guidance.
Good evening.
Thanks, Nick. And just as a reminder, you have 20 minutes to present, and then we will follow with some feedback from the commission. So when you're ready, feel free to take it away.
Okay, bear with me. I'm not the best at Zoom. I'll start by sharing. Would you be able to turn on the sharing? It's telling me it's not enabled.
I just enabled. Oh, there it goes.
Perfect.
Okay.
There it is. All right, great. Give me a second here. All right. Are you guys able to see
Yep.
what I'm saying? Okay, great.
Yep.
All right. So 15 Elm and 2 Porter is currently a 5-unit building with 2 commercial spaces. We have been in a very long road. I've gotten involved in the last year and a half with this project from the previous person working on it. And we've been in front of you guys before, but almost 2 years ago, between the tap and some change of heads and leads with the city and on our end, we're back here again. Today, we'll go through that. The layouts haven't changed. The facades really haven't changed. I know we have to bring 3 facades to the floor today. So we have this facade here, which was first proposed. We have a second facade and color palette that was proposed. And then after the last UDC meeting, again, over 2 years ago, I'm sorry, we took the recommendations of this committee and came up with this, which I believe was approved, but then because of other things, we had to go back to the beginning of the line with dealing with some of the stuff with the city on the other end. So nothing to really do with tonight, but going back through this, there's not much different inside. There's the same thing where we're cutting off the back of 15 Elm here. I'm going to get into this a little bit. So you can see there's a little removal on the back of the building for some outdoor space, which can be shown here. I don't know if you can see my cursor. We'll have 3 outdoor spaces plus the deck space in the front. If we go back a little bit, you guys could kind of pick up on the idea was to match the 3 floors with the setback on the front wall and not keep the current facade, which comes all the way up to the street, which is what it is right now, where it's all the way flush with the street and follows all the way down to the corner. And so working on the green score with some native trees. Again, so we have the current situation here and the proposed situation of bringing this all together. I know the goal was to kind of unify the front, give it a little character and depth, and improve it and modernize it on the inside and outside with a little more outdoor space and a little bit more green score. And then again, we've updated all the stuff as far as the traffic management plan goes, adding accesses, bike ramps, bike storage and parking, adding stuff to the public way and also to the back open space for closed bike coverage there. The goal that there is currently a curb cut at the back patio there that will be removed in this project. That was talked about. And then bringing forward just some stuff on the public street for people parking outside the remaining commercial space that will stay directly on the corner. And then some indoor bike storage there. Again, I'm not great at this, and I'm happy to answer any questions at this time. Is there anything anyone particularly wants me to go into in regards to any of this?
So maybe it might be helpful if someone from the city just gives an overview of why this needed to come back to the commission.
Well, I can give that. I can say that. So, city planning, the
It'd be really great to hear it from the city.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Hi,
So,
this is Kit. Lester, I'm the case planner for this application. I'm just pulling up my notes on this application, so I just need 1 second. I inherited this case from Emily Hutchings when she left the city, so I'm just going back to my notes with her just to make sure that I give you the right information.
Are you able to confirm whether or not this commission took a vote on this project the last time it was
I'm
before?
not seeing a design recommendation in the file. I see the submission, but I'm not seeing a recommendation from 2022. But just give me a moment and I
I see
can.
Nick shaking his head too.
Yeah, I
Well,
don't believe it went to vote. I believe we came through this same process where we're at today. The commission made the recommendations, we made the changes, and then uh, we exceeded the 6 month limit before we were able to come back to the planning. Some of that was on us in trying to figure out outside companies for the engineering and for the tap and some other stuff that took a little longer than we thought. Some of it was on the city. They went from Sarah to Emily to now Kit, where we got lost in communication with them. So we exceeded the 6 month window. The city asked us to come back to the beginning. We started doing all that again. We did our neighborhood meeting again back in the summer, and then we're back here with this because we just updated with this year's stuff with all the tap.
Okay.
and Kit, you noted it was 2022. Was like that seems more correct in terms of 4 years ago and not 2 years ago.
Yes, I'm looking
Okay.
the last thing that we have in the file for this project is a planning board submittal for 2022, and I don't see a design review recommendation from the board from then. I don't know if the recommendations looked the same at that point, but I don't see one that was submitted in this document.
Okay. And so the changes from the current building, I mean, it seems relatively limited on the exterior envelope. You're increasing, you're actually removing area along um, the primary frontage. You're not increasing height, you're not increasing footprint. Is all that right? It's
Correct.
basically
We're
internal
decreasing
reconfigure.
footprint. Yep.
It's an internal reconfiguration and a recladding of the building.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And is the ground floor space remaining retail?
The corner, about 90% of the awning you see with all the glass in this current picture will remain deep retail with the entrance. And then where I believe the 13, which is the middle building here, give me a second. I'll go over and show you that. As is today, the area, this first floor entry right here currently was, I believe, a daycare. The building's been vacant since we acquired it, but that I guess would be considered commercial, but that's not going to remain. That'll become residential. And then over on the corner will remain.
Okay.
Is that
Um,
a is that a door or is that windows?
which one? This spot right here?
No, the two kind of in the center volume. Okay, windows. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine. No worries.
Okay. But a question about the duct on the side street that runs up the side of the building. I know that's existing.
Yes,
Um,
sir.
is the idea that that is an existing duct that's remaining?
That would be the idea. Until we know what kind of commercial, I mean, it could be a bakery, it could be a coffee shop, could be like a nut roaster, it could be a realty office. I don't know what it's going to wind up being when the time comes to lease it. So we would maintain that ideally, clean it up, probably paint it, make it nice, make sure it's structurally secure, just in the event that someone who would need the exhaust vent for cooking purposes or anything could.
Yeah. I mean, would there be, given the fact that you're gutting the inside, would there be the possibility of running it up uh, on the inside of the building?
Yeah, I believe the possibilities there. I mean, some of that's above my head, but yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's an existing condition, but given the extent of the work, and I think typically if this was new construction, we'd require it to be run on the inside of the building. So just for consistency, I think that would
I've
be a
added it to my
request.
notes. I can definitely circle back around to that.
Okay.
Tim, would you like to include that as a potential design guidance piece?
Yes, please.
Anything else from the commission? So again, we're voting on facade, that this meets the design guidelines, massing options, and additional.
Yeah, I mean, I'll note that what is submitted as a landscape plan is not a landscape plan. It's three birches on a survey. Um, so in terms of how it gets this far, and if it moves on past this, this needs to be rectified before it moves to anyone else. Um, Specifically, there's no indication of materiality on the plan. I don't know anything about what the fence is going to be next door. I have no indication of what the ground plane is around the four birches that are existing or are proposed in the zone. Um, there's no indication of any streetscape. I see, you've kind of flashed a bike rack, but it does not appear on the plan. Um,
So I can
and
send this updated one
yeah,
with
it's also
the,
not prepared by a landscape architect. Um,
okay,
so I mean, as a baseline for getting us here, I I would kind of expect more than better than this.
okay. That time, me, I was under the guidance that at this stage that the landscape plan and that didn't have to be certified and done yet, and that we were
It
just
doesn't have
going
to be
to.
certified and done, absolutely not. But
So I
this is not a landscape plan to start with. This
agreed.
is literally it's a
That was
survey.
for the green score, but yes, okay.
Yeah, but even the green score, which again, we don't review green score, but there's some assertions that are, I would strongly recommend that the case planner review in terms of if this is actually meeting a green score, because it would be,
Right.
I
Yeah, just the button, Andrew.
yeah,
I do review green scores, and you do need it to be certified by a
Yeah.
landscape architect or a licensed professional, like an engineer.
Mhm.
the harvested rainwater note is questionable in terms of where and how you guys are doing that. There needs to be more information if that is going to be part of that.
Okay.
Architects, do you guys have feelings?
A
Or
similar questions. And maybe it's on the drawings. I skimmed through the drawings like a few days ago, so I don't remember what was on them, but do you call out materials on this? On the design drawings?
Um,
Or, so similar things to what Andrew was just talking about.
so there is some called out, but not completely all of it. As we were again, I was under the impression we were looking at the three different facades that were offered in some of the forms that, and we were coming out of this with that recommendation, and then we were going to lock all that stuff down.
Well, so then could you present then the three options? I was curious about.
Um, so this was the first with the color of the palette, the existing front line of the middle building connecting, bringing the roof line up and level across. The second one was coming in here with more of the colors of a car. I forget it's caramel something, but just a different color there with more of a stone facade in the middle breaking up. The third was with the grays and the white and vertical line siding, and cement board and some different details with that.
And so what's the cladding of the middle volume in the third option?
You say volume square footage, like the face of
No,
the
no,
house?
no, just what material is that on so it looks like it's kind of horizontal
Yeah,
planks on
all of
the,
the horizontal cement board.
but if you go to that bottom image you pulled up before.
Mhm.
Um,
This one, sir?
yeah, that's right. Um, so there's a horizontal, looks like probably a 6 inch horizontal siding with a dark gray color. And then there's that centerpiece. What
Mhm.
material is on that?
I I believe as we would buy and we've used before, a similar cement board product that looks like kind of has the vertical lines built in. It's about a 13-inch piece that overlaps with seams in between. So it has a beadboard semi effect, but it's still a cement board product.
Oh,
I think it'd be really helpful if we were able to see these more clearly and presented just as material palettes too, not just in renderings, because it's tough to kind of understand what's really going on. Um,
Yeah.
and it's
And
hard to make a
and
judgment on that.
and maybe to add to that, it sounds like in addition to the specificity that the architectural materials as well as the landscapes plans require for the UDC for review, um, it makes sense in my head that we motion to continue and meet at another time once those pieces are fleshed out and the commission can review them a bit more thoroughly, and get the right recommendations and comments prepared such that they're giving you, Nick, the feedback that you are needing.
Yeah.
Does that sound in line with?
yeah,
Yeah.
I think that makes sense. And it's not our intent to impose a whole bunch of additional burdens on the project. I know it's not new construction, it's renovation, it's relatively limited scope, but it is, if it's required to come before this commission, we have the submission requirements that we need to, apply equally across projects. I think architecturally, with this option, I mean, generally it seems fine. Just being more specific about the actual materials being proposed. And it could be one page. You just show examples of what each one of those materials are. Um, and I guess for each option, that would be helpful. And then, like Andrew described, a real landscape plan needs to be included.
Yeah. And I think with the call out on materials, the building on the left, is that a lot of existing elements and materials? Like, is that a stone base? Is that a real stone base, or is that a proposed contemporary material?
That's it. No, that is not proposed. It is currently a fieldstone foundation.
Yeah. So to annotate that on the drawing would be great. Existing and new, I think would be important to clarify.
No problem.
And then there's some funny details like in that centerpiece with it looks like a little pitched roof over the door on the first floor.
Mm-hmm.
Is that intentional? Is
Yes,
that
it is.
it is? It's hard to tell what that is. Okay. Yeah, so it'd be good to see, to understand those things in architectural drawings.
And with that, I think it might make sense if we get a motion to continue. Does that sound right for folks?
Yeah.
Yeah, so moved.
Thank you, Deborah. And a second.
Second.
Thanks, Martin. Roll call vote. Andrew Arba,
Yes.
uh, Deborah Fennick,
Yes.
Martin Pavlinich,
Yes.
and Tim Talon.
Yes.
All right, and so the motion to continue passes. And Nick, we hope to see you not in 4 years.
No, I don't think that'll be that this time.
Great, see you soon. Thank you.
All right.
And next on our list is a review of 120, 132 Middlesex, and that is case planners Madison. Again, participants, please raise your hands and we can get you all coordinated as presenters with presenter shared access.
Oh, I need to recuse myself from this project.
Thank you, Andrew.
And I just sent the request to share my screen.
Great. Right. And you have 20 minutes to present, Matthew.
Okay, great, thank you. Thank you all for your time this evening. We're returning after our previous UDC presentation on November 25th. And at that time, we went through the massing options and facade options, and I think had a remaining request to come back with material samples associated with the exterior envelope. So that's what we have prepared this evening to share with you also. I know a few people were here on November 25th, but probably not all of the attendees tonight. So just a quick to orient you, the project site, 120 Middlesex is on the west side of Middlesex Avenue, just south of the Somerville Courthouse. View on the right-hand side, looking south from Middlesex Avenue, the courthouse in the foreground. So this is the north side of the building where we have one of the facade types. We have, as we shared last time, our kind of diagram of the kind of facade material location diagram. The Middlesex facing facade and the south facing facade here shown in purple, those wrap two sides of the building. There's a facade type 2, which wraps the north end of the building and the west side of the building. So we have two different facade types with similar materials but different colors. And then the kind of definition of the base of the building, the definition of the penthouse of the building as well. And just to point out, I think we went through last time, there is a two-story penthouse on the top of the building, but we have pulled the glazed building facade up to basically continue that facade over the lower of the two penthouse levels to reduce the proportion of that top penthouse level. So a diagram of the two basic facade types, type 1 and type 3. Those refer to the types that we have presented, of which there were more in the kind of UDC options that we presented last time. But type 1 is the one that faces Middlesex Avenue and Cummings to the south, and it's composed of a combination of opaque metal panels, vertical metal fins, and vision glass and spandrel glass. And then the type 3, which is on the west side and the north side, is almost all glass with different types of glass. So it has the what's shown darker here are the spandrel glass areas, which are opaque, have insulation behind them to meet the window to wall ratio with the energy code. And then there are the vision glass areas, which are the lighter zones here with a lighter spandrel that kind of unites that into a two-story expression. And then the accompanying two-story vertical fins, which create this kind of interwoven stagger pattern. So those, to help you visualize that a little better, going back to this is the view from the south looking north along Middlesex Avenue. 74 Middlesex is just off the frame here on the left-hand side. So this is showing, again, the combination of, you can kind of see it in detail better on the right-hand, lower right-hand image here. Combination of white metal panel with a fin. There's relief in the shape of those panels to create shadow lines and depth. And then the combination of on the horizontal, the spandrel panel, which is insulated behind, and then the vision glass below that. So it's sort of an interwoven pattern with those spandrel glass, vision glass, and the metal panel and the fin. And you can see here, this is a view of the Middlesex side and the north side. That's where those two different facade types transition on either side of the vertically stacked balconies that are on both the northeast corner and the southwest corner of the building. So the elevations of those four sides of the building, again, facade type 1 on both the south side and the east side, facade type 3 on the north side and the west side. So to zoom in and look at the specific materials as they're called out, we have, again, a combination of vision glass and spandrel glass in these kind of vertical areas here. So spandrel glass, color 1, we have the color code kind of product number from Guardian Glass as basis of design over on the right-hand side. So that's meant to sort of kind of interweave with the vertical pattern of the metal panel and the fins, and then this kind of woven horizontal that kind of weaves its way through that stagger pattern. Vision glass type 1, which is very clear. It will be triple glazed vision glass unit. The color for the fin and the color for the metal panel are the same. That is this white mica color, so that has a little bit of speckle to it, a little specular finish within the paint. And then at the top of the building, at the penthouse, and again, this is the second penthouse level of two. We've kind of masked the lower one. We have a kind of medium gray panel that's meant to recede. It does have, we'll have a detail of this in a few more slides. There is some texture and relief to the articulation of the penthouse cladding, but it is meant to be recessive. And that same metal panel color, which is this, it's a medium gray, but it has a little bit of texture to it. It's not a real zinc, but it has sort of the grain to it that a zinc finish has. Is also used on some of the ground level details as well. So if we come around to the north side, the facade type 3, we have a combination of essentially these kind of two-story lighter colored panels, which are the spandrel panels that are opaque. They have insulation behind them. Then the darker areas are the vision glass plus the slightly darker spandrel, which helps kind of unify that. Same vision glass type all around, and same combination of spandrel colors as well, and that kind of medium gray cap on the penthouse. Down at street level, this is also where that same kind of faux zinc metal panel finish comes in on the column enclosures at the base of the building. Also to the soffit, there's sort of that two-story base expression, which is a combination of a recessed first floor and a highly glazed second floor that create a kind of two-story scale with a one-story kind of covered area arcade along the streetscape. So that metal panel with that very fine texture, you have to look at it very close to see the texture, but it clads both those columns and the soffits of those metal boxes. And again, the same kind of same materials on the above this second floor to the third floor line, where we have the white mica metal panel finish. You can see a little better here too, the relief of there's sort of a projecting portion of the panel, a recessed part of the panel, and then the fin that creates that kind of texture and shadow play. So a little bit more detail, just in a kind of more technical drawing to illustrate the different parts. This is on the facade type 1, so the vision glass with the white areas here, blue highlighting the projecting fin elements, and the lighter gray representing that white metal panel, and the darker gray representing the spandrel glass there. And then for the other facade type, same vertical fins. You can see the transparent vision glass areas here. This is the spandrel panel that sort of unites the two vertically stacked vision glass areas, and then the contiguous two-story opaque spandrel glass areas as well. And then when you get to the top of the building, as I mentioned, the second penthouse, like I said, this is the first penthouse level. The lower of the two does have the same cladding. I think we talked about last time how we're dealing with the vision glass in that area by having an interior wall that's set back behind the facade. So rather than making all the glass opaque on this floor, there's sort of a accessible space around the perimeter of the building. It will have some gentle lighting inside of it to make it look like the other occupied floors without kind of any light glare from that. But then essentially the kind of textural elements of the vision glass and spandrel glass fin facade gets sort of simplified, but still carries through into the cladding pattern of the second penthouse level. And that concludes the presentation.
Great.
I have a question. I
Sure.
wasn't here for the first presentation of this.
Mhm.
Can you describe the logic between the two types of facades and the disposition of them, and what's the story?
Sure. So essentially, we have this. If you look at this left-hand side view, when you look at Middlesex Avenue to Cumming Street, there's sort of an oblique corner. So we've sort of swept that facade type around the corner. It really defines a plane that really is transition. You make the transition between the one type and the other type at these balconies, so it's sort of almost a zipper between the two facade types. So it kind of facilitates that transition, and again, sort of sweeps the corner. And then I think it was going back to previous discussions. This is interesting. Also, a project that was first reviewed a couple years ago, and the feedback we received at that time, I think, was to articulate the different sides of the different faces of the building in a different way. So we sort of treated the orthogonal corner of the west side and the north side as that one kind of more simplified textural type, and then this one sweeping gesture that turns the corner at the oblique Cummings and Middlesex intersection. And then you can see I think you can see it hopefully in the ground floor views here of this sort of, you can see in the bottom right detail that there is this kind of two-story base element that's composed of two parts. It has sort of the recessed arcade and then these more vitrine-like glass volumes on the second floor that fall with underneath the datum at the third floor. And then there's the two-story lobby space that actually faces out to Middlesex, framed by a diagonal bracing system, which is part of the lateral bracing system of the building that sort of highlights the entry to the building.
Thank you. So the fins. So this has nothing to do with solar orientation or anything like that.
No, it's more.
You have fins.
Okay.
I thought maybe, but they're pretty shallow fins. Yeah.
Yeah, I was more trying to achieve some relief and some variability in the way that it reacts with the sun and shadow throughout the day, in keeping with the design guideline requirements of depth within the facade.
Right. And then Middlesex Street, is that two ways or one way?
Two ways.
It is two ways, but this is the primary view, the experience way most folks would what do you call it? Appreciate the building.
I think, if we look at the map, I think if you're coming up from the other, there's a few new life science buildings further south down Middlesex Avenue. You would see this side, coming up north to Middlesex, but if you're exiting from the highway, obviously you'd come across and loop around, and you would be seeing this view behind the courthouse.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So thank you for the presentation. That was really comprehensive on the materiality. Appreciate you coming back with that. One question though is just on the balconies themselves. Can you talk about the materiality of the balconies and particularly the underside of them?
Sure. I mean, they basically have the same cladding as the columns, so there's sort of a secondary layer. If I zoom in here a bit, the columns slide out from behind the facade. The penthouse is set back at the top. So we've treated kind of everything that is a layer back from that, which includes the face of the balconies and the underside of the balconies, with that same kind of medium faux zinc finish. And then the guardrails on the balconies are glass. So it's sort of all the elements that either kind of create that zipper and are set back a layer, kind of slip out from behind the primary facade layer.
Okay. And one other question, I think this is relatively close to 74 Middlesex, so I think inevitably it's going to be seen in relation to that. I'm curious if you can talk a little about how you think about the relationship between those two.
Yeah, I mean, that building has a bit of a warmer tone. It's a little bit, I'd say, a little bit bronze, maybe kind of medium bronze tone. It has quite a bit of texture to it as well. I know this site, if I go back to the site plan here, there is another site to the west of us that will most likely, well, depending on when it's developed, it has plans that I think have been reviewed or are in review for this site, which is the La Quinta Hotel. So the anticipation is that the west side of 120 Middlesex will not always be visible from the highway. And similarly, I think actually this aerial predated the construction of 74 Middlesex, but I believe, I'm trying to remember actually, I guess 74 is one more block now, but I think the parcel here with the La Quinta Hotel actually wraps around. So the expectation is that actually both the south side and the west side will eventually be eclipsed by other tall buildings of a similar scale. But I think the verticality, the sort of two-story scale of this building if I'm not mistaken, I think the module of the kind of there's that nice sort of faceted opaque part of 74 Middlesex that kind of toggles back and forth and catches the light a bit differently. I think it's of a similar scale, if I'm not mistaken, the two-story cells, excuse me, two-story scale, which would be similar between the two of them.
Right. And just as a reminder to the commission that we will be voting on facade, design guidelines, and massing option, or approving them.
I don't know if you need me technically. I do have the presentation from last time ready if we need it. This is sort of condensed, really focusing on the materials. If you need to vote on the massing or facade, we do have that previous one, which had the full complement of options we reviewed and got feedback on.
But the one you're showing today was the one that was approved at the last meeting, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Right. Or yeah, Tim, are you gonna?
No, I was just overall, yeah, I think I'm comfortable with what's been presented. I was, in looking through this and then hearing you present, I was actually a little surprised about the white panel color. In looking at the images, I had the impression that it was going to be kind of more of a metallic color and perhaps something that was closer to 74 Middlesex. I don't think it's a bad thing that you're proposing something that's more distinct.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think it's also a good thing that you're proposing a white that isn't kind of a glossy white or a
Right.
pure white, that it's something that still has a texture that I think will still hopefully change, with solar orientation as you go around the corner and
Mm-hmm.
catch the light in interesting ways and be a little more dynamic than a pure
Yeah.
white
Yeah,
would be.
does the mica actually warm the white a little bit?
I'm sure you can't tell well enough, from the little snippet that's on the screen. Of course, we have the physical samples in the office that,
Right.
when you move it, you can see just a little. It's pretty subtle, but it does have just a little bit of sparkle to the mica finish.
Yeah. But does it warm the color too? I think I've
Mm.
experienced that a little bit. It just not quite as white as the white as
Yeah,
the
yeah. I mean,
white
this
at the
is
mica.
yeah. It actually has just a little bit. I mean, it's called white, but it's not. Obviously, you can see it stands out from the page a little bit. It is not, pure blinding Mediterranean white. It has a little bit, just a little bit of gray in it. So it's a little soft, I would say, as a white. Not very harsh.
So I would say overall, my only comment would be it's a very monotone color palette. And if
Hmm.
you look at the image on page 9, where you have at the second level these kind of hanging boxes off the
Hmm.
second level. When I look at the cladding of those and the underside of them, they don't feel very much like the same as the column cladding. And I think what you're
Hmm.
indicating is those are the same
Hmm.
materials. I wonder whether in those locations where you have these hanging boxes, they may want to be clad in a different metal, something that
Hmm.
is warmer, that has more color, it's closer to the
Hmm.
pedestrian, that you use something that's distinct there. And then if that was to be something that's distinct, perhaps you think about carrying that through on the balconies somehow.
Hmm.
Perhaps it's the
Hmm.
underside, perhaps it's wrapping. But again,
Hmm.
just to add something that introduces kind of a warmer, um,
Hmm.
kind of richer color. Uh,
Yeah, yeah. I think that's a great suggestion.
And you have wood paneling. Guys, it looks like wood paneling to the glass, the glazing. Yeah, which I think so. Yeah, I think that would be a nice strategy.
Hmm.
Give it a little gravitas.
Yeah.
Yeah, anything else from the committee? With, if not, we can Sounds like we're ready to move to a vote. The first being a motion, sounds like to approve the facade treatment presented. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Deborah. And a second?
Second.
Thank you, Tim. And a roll call vote. Deborah Fennick,
Yes.
Martin Pavlinich,
Yes.
and Tim Talon.
Yes.
And this motion passes. The second vote will be that this project meets design guidelines. Can I get a motion to approve that this meets design guidelines?
So moved.
Thank you, Martin. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Deborah. And now for a roll call vote. Deborah Fennick,
Yes.
Martin Pavlinich,
Yes.
Tim Talon.
Yes.
Right, and this motion also passes. The third is a vote on massing options, and this motion will be that to approve the massing option presented in this updated presentation. Can I get a
Did we
motion?
already approve that at the last meeting?
Lexi,
Yeah, we did.
yes, yeah,
Just looking through my notes here.
perfect. Thank you, Martin.
Alright.
And so additional design guidance. The only thing I heard from the commission was to propose warmer cladding material at the underside of the arcade area and potential balcony.
Yeah, and I'd say underside and sides of the
Underside
hanging
and side.
boxes.
Yeah.
And consider the same. Again, this is unlike the earlier one. This is not a prescription. This is a suggestion. But consider it at the balconies as well.
Great.
I'll leave that up to Matthew.
Right.
Uh,
And so this
so
final motion, yeah.
Yeah, there were a couple others that we talked about at the last meeting as well. One was no illumination of the external face of the penthouse.
Mhm.
And then we had talked about the floors that are clad, the mechanical floors that are clad in glass and vision glass. Matthew had described how the interstitial floors, the wall is set in from the face of glass. We had
Mhm.
also talked about the importance of minimizing the illumination on those.
Yeah.
Great. And
And
so,
I think just to be clear, I think you were talking about the kind of glare or the visibility of the light source on those floors primarily.
Yeah, I think that, and then just if there's a white wall that's at 5 feet back from the face of
Yeah.
glass, just making sure you're not illuminating that face of wall and
Sure.
then it shows up as a bright band.
Yeah.
great. And so including the cladding at the underside of the arcade, as well as the boxes and consideration of the balconies, no illumination of the external face of the penthouse, and then minimizing illumination of lighting on the face of the glass, especially in the mechanical floors.
I'm sorry, there was one more that we had talked about, just a second level at the curb corner. I understand that on upper floors, the curtain wall is segmented. We had talked about the importance of minimizing the size of the unitized pieces. I don't think that needs to go in the design guidance, but we had talked about curved glass on the second
Yeah.
floor.
Yeah.
That's still the plan?
Yes.
Okay, so I think we should include that as well.
Great. And then the fourth, or I guess that, yes, the fourth piece would be the curved glass on the second floor. So
Yeah.
those are the additional design guidance in this motion. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Tim. And a second?
So moved.
Thank you, Deborah.
I mean,
And a roll.
second. Sorry.
Yes.
Mhm.
Seconded from Deborah. And a roll call vote. Deborah Fennick,
Yes.
Martin Pavlinich,
Yes.
and Tim Talon.
Yes.
Great. And thank you, Matt and larger design team for coming and presenting.
All right. Thank you all for your time this evening.
Thank you.
And next, we have the design review for 101 Highland Ave and 107 Highland Ave. I'm assuming we are lumping both of these presentations together, but if for our participants who are presenting, thank you. I see Adam and David's hand raised, and Lexi will let you in and give you presenter access.
Thank
Just
you, Mr.
before
Chair.
Before the team starts, I mean, in general, I'm fine with lumping them together. I'd ask the other commissioners as well if they're fine with that. Um,
I would prefer to hear it once.
okay.
That's how we did it back in November anyway.
Right.
Yeah. You ready?
I'm ready.
Excellent. Yeah. Hi, Attorney Adam Dash, representing the Somerville YMCA here at 48 Grove Street. With us, or if you could promote, please, I believe Vladimir Benoit should be here, the president and CEO of the Somerville YMCA, Lewis Kraft from Stantec, the project architects, and Chris Fee, who is the landscape architect. If we could get them all promoted, because Lewis Kraft is going to be doing the slides. I see that they are up. Excellent. Okay. We appeared before you on November 25th, and you asked us to return to respond about comments from the various commissioners, which we're going to do. And just as a real quick reminder, this was filed as two applications, one for the YMCA Community Center building at 101 Highland, and the other for an all-affordable residential building at 107 Highland. They're adjoining properties. As the two buildings work together, we are presenting them together, and you'd given us double the time to do our presentation because they're two things technically together. I would note that we've already done a lot with the city council's already changed the zoning for the properties to allow for this project, and we've already been through the demolition review process with the Historic Preservation Commission, and no demo delay was imposed. And we've met with neighborhood groups, had a neighborhood meeting, so this has been clicking along, and I appreciate your attention to it. Lewis and Chris are now going to walk you through the buildings and the responses to the questions and comments that you had last time. Lewis?
Great. Well, greetings, everybody. You can hear me okay? We're excited to be back in front of the commission here. I think we had a very productive session where we got some very helpful feedback from the commission that we've incorporated and studied into the presentation this evening. At the primary or highest level, the feedback that we got was that the proposed massing that had the action line or kind of the significant swoop across the site best suited. There was a broad consensus that best suited the site in use, and that amongst the building design, there was three presented, and cladding option 3 was the first or second choice, but it was always a highly desired choice amongst all, so that we left the last commission with consensus that we had a design direction and a massing, and then there was just request for additional explanation and studies. So we're just showing us a little bit of a recap, and of course, Deborah, we'll be happy to kind of fill in the blanks as needed, either as we go along, please feel free to jump in, or we have the previous presentation that we can, in the question and answer, refer to. So here below was the third cladding option. And then looking at this all together, this is where we left off last time, was some questions about additional information and refinement upon this massing and cladding option. Broadly, I'm not going to go through the detail here, but broadly, the feedback was along these 6 lines. First, the School Street, the massing and design and kind of the character of the wing of the building that touches School Street. The Highland level 1 character and differentiation. There's a lot of discussion around the detail along level 1 that has this kind of broad open design and the amount of variation and breaks along those facades, and kind of asking for additional information and some study there. Alongside that would be the residential entry for the building itself, and to study providing a better level of differentiation distinction for that entry. Then for the primary community center or YMCA facade, there was a request for additional study about the fenestration and the scale and the layout of those openings. And sort of alongside that would be the upper portion of that building, looking at the cladding and fenestration with an eye towards mitigating or reducing the overall look and feel of that scale. And then finally, and Chris Fee, principal at Stantec Landscape Architecture, will be joining us at the end. There is a request for a fair amount of additional information on the landscape design. So jumping right in, we're what we just described for feedback is the structure of this presentation, and we're going to be bringing it all together. Since we left off at the School Street development, one of the positive developments that happened in the interim would be we got a response from Eversource about our vaults. Design professionals on the call might know that's no small feat. And additionally, we're able to remove this second story vault in the facade and utilize a vault in a different part of the project that's not available from the street. And that allowed us to really open up and study the impact of this building. So the first place that we went when we were looking at the character of this facade was to think about it a little bit more in its context with City Hall across the street. And there's really some nice, if you could see my cursor, there's some nice through lines here with the breaks between the attic story, and then obviously some wonderful detailing of a bay that we could pick up right over the entry. But ultimately we felt that sort of introducing a new facade color and cladding was, one, perhaps a little bit too on the nose, but then two, a little bit busier for the facade than maybe we thought necessary. So our preferred direction here is to still keep that bay, still keep a lot of that detailing. We actually looked at refining that detailing of the bay, but then simplifying the overall facade cladding language. So we have a textured CMU base. We have reveals breaking the building into a base middle top, and then a lot of beautiful detailing, for that bay window and then around each individual opening. So again, we have a before here now coming up School Street towards Highland, and then an after. And you'll kind of notice one of the things we thought was most important would be to break down the scale of those windows. Before we had larger scale windows, breaking those down into more residential scaled windows felt like the right move. We also, for cost, maintenance, and design reasons, we've switched from a glass railing at the top to a picket railing as well. And here you can see at the corner of Highland and School Street how that all comes together, where there's a transition from the more varied terracotta facade to a more simplified and composed facade language along School Street that still has a nice level of detail here, breaking the facade up, stepping down the scale as you move down School Street. Another area of feedback would be along Highland Avenue, this primary level 1 facade that's obviously a major component of the overall massing of the building that unifies the volumes above and provides for a very open, inviting glass facade along the base that has this distinctive swoop that does a number of different things, including opening up the building and guiding folks to either the YMCA or the residential entry. And I think some of the feedback that we heard was wanting to understand more about how this created a really a dynamic and detailed facade, while still providing the level of differentiation that the guidelines speak to. So I wanted to show this diagram, which sort of speaks to how two primary elements along this facade work together. One being towards each end, projecting metal fins that grow in depth and width and kind of get stronger and it sort of reinforce the movement, which is the underlying concept of the facade, that translate and then overlap to a fritted glass, like a dot fritted glass, at the Aquatic Center, YMCA Aquatic Center, that's in the middle of the building, where that allows for a level of privacy, but still a lot of light into that Aquatic Center, which is very important to the users. So what you see here as an update was we really think that it's important, rather than introducing a lot of new elements to this facade, that the unifying characteristics of this level 1 glass facade, it still has quite a level of dynamism, we feel, that's really appropriate for a civic building, essentially what's a civic building such like this. So we've refined this with a cleaner entry, including showing the bench entry where people can sit and gather, more detail and depth in the fins and the associated canopy elements here. And then, we wanted to zoom in for you a little bit more and show some of the detailing for this. It's a little tricky, as some of you may know, to perfectly represent a screen print, dot frit, but essentially that is what we are looking to achieve here, where the density and opacity is highest at kind of that inflection point of the curve, and then it gradually fades, overlaps, and transitions to both the YMCA Community Center entry and the residential entry. And Chris will also be reviewing with you all. We've kind of looked at updating the planting mix. This obviously isn't perfect, and Andrew, we're going to get and Martin, we're going to get deep into that towards the back half of the presentation, but building up and changing that across the face of the Highland facade so that there's a connection between what's happening in the planting and what's happening in the facade architecture. There was also a set of questions asking about, differentiation between the YMCA building and the residential building, and whether it made sense to sort of introduce or look at new elements there at this part of the building to offer more of a level of differentiation and really just see, I think, Commissioner Talon, that the request was just to see what the sort of the effect of some of these studies would be. So we did study some alternate entry designs that had, more of a solid character to it. Ultimately, you'll show that we felt that doing something that was too far out of character with the rest of the other language ended up feeling a little bit like it was separated from the rest of the building rather than connected. But we wanted to study that. We've also studied, and we'll show in an elevation view later, a full break from top to bottom, including level 1 in between the two buildings. We also studied sort of introducing an increased end cap to this projecting fin language as well. And then as well as looking at, widening and sort of changing into a glazing panel at the end here. Ultimately, where we landed with this is that, having a level of refinement, which we've included in the detailing and depth of some of these elements, was really the direction that felt the most true to both the overall massing and cladding concept, but also to the experience of the ground level design. So we feel a sort of subtle but very significant level of differentiation between the Y entry building transitioning past the fritted glass and then culminating here in the Y program. This is going to be a public program element. So we've added a ledge here for some signage as well. And then we've introduced a subtle frit to the residential glazing here that will pick up on that incline and sort of this cant. And then we've added some light toned highlights here, sort of brass toned highlights here, kind of calling out a little bit of a special character to this residential entry. So another area of discussion was about this primary Y community center facade. And while there was kind of broad consensus that this facade cladding type, which is a terracotta that has a variable module to it, had a lot of interest and utility, made a lot of sense within the context of the Central Hill campus, there are some questions about both the scale of these windows and whether sort of the up-down kind of movement along the facade was really connected to the interior use of the building. So we took a moment to sort of step back and abstract these openings because there's also a request to look at whether a more regular rhythm to the facade might be beneficial to the overall read and scale of the building. So we studied this as a more regular rhythm that marched across the facade. We studied elongated openings that brought a real horizontality, as well as thinking about kind of high and low windows that would be, changing the sill line based on the use in between. We also studied a lot of other configurations, of varying success. But what we really landed on was a desire to have a level of interest, movement across the facade, but also a facade and openings that can respond to the uses in between. And so what we've provided for is a mixture of larger and medium-sized openings of different sizes and formats that create a patchwork across the building, but then can also modulate across so that you can have your teaching and child centers here that might have more playful windows with different size openings for people of different heights, larger glazed openings into the fitness center area, doing things like pulling up the glass at the basketball courts where we don't need glass down low. We actually don't want glass down low. So being able to respond to those kind of things, and then some keyhole openings into the top of the aquatic center below. So there's detailing associated with this. This is the same terracotta-like profile that has a mixture of different terracotta profiles with a lot of depth associated with that, as well as depth surrounding the windows. And then we've introduced some playful color elements to the building that sort of speak to the branding and identity of the Y, but also offer an additional touch point for some directionality within the facade and some excitement within the facade, mirroring the excitement and activity within. And all of this would, as well, by further modulating these openings, it's going to have a lovely effect both at daytime, but at nighttime as well. So we really hope by kind of making this adjustments, we kind of move to having an active facade versus what might before have been a little bit of a jittery facade, right? Now it's more playful and active and responsive to the architecture within. Moving up the building and talking about the upper level of the Y, Mr. Taylor, I think you had some comments about whether the openings and kind of expression of the building at the top was lending a read of the massing that was a little bit too large, and what could we do to mitigate that? We talked a little bit about some shaping of the edges of the building and then the challenges, both zoning and programmatically, behind carving away at the building, but we did study a couple different things that we talked about, including looking at a flat cornice building across the top of the building. We also looked at lightening up the top of the building, setting this out aside as a little bit different color and a more regular window rhythm across, or looking at complementing kind of the patchwork or varied responsive facade below and bringing that language back up to the top of the building. Ultimately, we have a couple directions. So we've got two directions, both of which we're really quite happy with and kind of wanted to just put equally in front of the commission as well. So the first and most important thing here with the upper level of the building was that breaking up the scale of the windows and getting away from a kind of small to large window openings so that we no longer have those large scale window openings really did the most work to break down the overall scale of the massing and be appropriate and maybe not stand out so prominently as a kind of a major element that was maybe increasing the feel of the massing above. So we have one facade type that is a little bit more regular in how that is broken up, but still scattering with a level of movement across the facade, which is important. And then the second would be building on top of that, which this is a metal slat, kind of a square format metal slat facade, building on top of that, and then reintroducing some inset panels above that mirror the patchwork pattern and really kind of bring a texture pattern all the way across the facade, which we feel like, again, brings a nice level of activity and playfulness to the facade while still keeping and maintaining what we feel is going to be a very lovely, gentle bend of the cornice line that will be visible both along Highland Ave and then also from I-93 as well. It's kind of an important element at distance. So we'll just step through a couple here before we'll turn it over to Chris here shortly to talk about landscape. So this would be the before composition. This would be the updates, both upper, base, middle, top, option 1 for the top, and then option 2 for the top as well. And then because we were asked, we brought, we at least studied bringing this break all the way down to the ground. Ultimately, this was one that was a little tough for the design team to digest, just because we feel like was strong utility and a real reinforcement of the overall concept when you have this continuity of facade along the base that allows for all of the movement and detail of the facade to really be read and understood at the pedestrian level, and then this holds and then reinforces the facades above. So summing up, we've got a couple befores and afters, and you'll have to forgive, we've got a jump in rendering style from the before and after, but we really wanted to kind of bring it to the next level so that you could start to see with a little bit more detail and lighting behind the character of the glass along the base, the scale and size of the openings of the both Y residential and Y community center buildings. and then the updates to the upper level above. So again, we have a before, and then we have an after. And Deborah, I'll just try and mention real quick for you. This is a double height lobby entrance into the building. There are childcare classrooms at the level above, fitness center. Then there's an aquatic center, which is the first 2 stories, and then a basketball gym with an indoor court track around the edge of this level, and then an outdoor track above with more program above. And then this is the residential building with 100% affordable residential units. Before. And then we have an update here that is just showing, again, just bringing into context all of the massing elements. And we really feel like with the commission's feedback that these refinements kind of help to serve the overall massing scaling of the building, especially along School Street. We feel like that was some good feedback that we heard and helped to really bring this building and the design a little bit more into focus. So before we turn to feedback, this has a lot of landscape updates to share with you.
Thanks,
Lewis, I'm sorry. Before
Sorry, go
we
ahead.
go on to landscape, could I just ask you, because we didn't
Yes.
talk a lot about it the last time, but if you could just speak to the materiality of 101 Highland, the affordable housing building?
Sure. Let's see if I can pop back here. So obviously glass storefront base, metal panels, swoop, and then this would be a hardy panel here, and we would stack and we break that up economically, right? This is going to be funded as an affordable building, so we need to be kind of conscious of that. We'll have some ability for recessed detailing around the windows as well, and then that is repeated with a different color. We would be looking at a painted panel with like an easy trim or a fry reglet aluminum J trim on the edge that would also be painted, so we kind of have a uniform look all the way across the top of the building.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I have a couple more questions. The top above the Y, that section, actually, I thought that was going to be transitional housing or something, but what was the function of it?
Sure. So at the top of the building, we have an additional multi-sport court, as well
Okay.
as community center spaces, classrooms, executive offices, and more fitness as well. You'll see a significant kind of outdoor fitness component as well.
Okay, so it's still clearly, I mean, it's institutional, not, transitional housing or anything. And then the wing behind the house on the corner.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is fitness and then childcare and Y programming on all 3 levels. At the base here, you'd see this is the ramp down into the garage. There's 2 levels of garage below the Y building, community center building here, but then it's all community programming above.
Okay. Okay, thank you. And also thank you. You're reading my mind about telling me what's happening behind the wall.
Understood.
And
Yeah.
just a quick question too. Sorry, just to go back to that, because you one of the comments from before was just that element touching School Street was quite tall and kind of looming a bit. And I think when you were able to get rid of the transformers, I was wondering, I mean, obviously if you're able to fit program, that's one thing and it's cool, but I think it's the question is whether it needs to be 4 stories, for trying to like step down or in terms of scale, because it's what the decision was between with being able to free up, because I guess sorry,
Yeah.
I'm being a bit convoluted, but one of the reasons we were told it was so big was because the transformers had to be there, and so there was just no real choice but to have a rather large kind of appendage to School Street. And so I'm just wondering, since we were able to get rid of the transformers or
Yeah.
move them elsewhere, now there's still the reason it's still 4 stories tall. So I'm just curious about that.
Sure. Yeah, and so I mean, really, the reason behind it is that all of the programming that an update to the Y building that hasn't had a functional update in 100 years more is that programming space still with all of this with all this massing is quite at a premium. And so ultimately, because statutorily, the community center building isn't required to have 3 different massings. I know that we had shown some massing variability, but since that's not required, we chose as a project team to really focus on the detail and character of this building, but keeping the zoning compliant massing that you're seeing.
Okay.
Chris, please jump in, and then we can jump into full questions.
Any more questions? I'm good. Yeah. Sweet. So yeah, thanks. At the last hearing, you had all asked for more detail on the site landscape design. So the building obviously occupies the majority of the site, but the landscape is critical to tying the whole project into the neighborhood. So we've added some design material precedent slides, expanded some information on the plant palette and planting design concept, and have some cross sections to help illustrate building's relationship to the street and adjacent properties. If you just go back to that first one, this just quickly. So this first slide just shows you some of the design precedents that are aligned with our vision for the site. So the spaces that we're designing are long and linear, and our site design responds to that with rectilinear design elements that reinforce the shape of the spaces. We'll be using light-colored pavements to limit heat island impacts, and we'll be incorporating linear furnishings to complement that layout. And the planting design will also be responding to that linear sort of pattern. Next slide. So these are some precedents on the ground floor. So the bench elements in the center are indicative of the swoop bench that we're proposing at the main entrance to the Y. There is going to be a screen fence proposed around the perimeter of the site, which you're seeing on the left, and then some linear bench ideas on the right will be used in the amenity spaces in the rear, which brings us to the site plan. So I think I had walked you all through this the last hearing, but just to sort of refresh your memory, the Y entrance is on the southeast corner of the site, where we're incorporating that wood swoop bench that responds to the swoop of the building and helps reinforce the main entrance. There's that one large 30-inch American elm on the corner that we intend to save, while the other trees along Highland are smaller Norway maples that are in rough shape and that we are proposing to be removed and replaced with additional street trees that are spaced more closely together to give more canopy to the sidewalk. The sidewalk and amenity zone are both 6 feet wide and aligned with Somerville's design standards. The sidewalk is going to be concrete, and we're proposing unit pavers at the building entrance and within the amenity zone. Tree pits are going to be open with low protective fencing, and we are proposing some bike racks in the middle of that amenity strip as well. West side of the building, the residential entry, proposing a small unit paver plaza. Moving north, this kind of corridor needs to be fully paved to provide utility access to the rear, and it also gives egress. North side of the building, so the residential, adjacent to the residential building, we have a small unit paver plaza with a few fixed benches and some plantings, provide an amenity space for residents and to create a buffer for the neighbors. The steps down, moving east to the YMCA amenity space that is similar in concept. It's largely open to allow for programmatic flexibility while incorporating some fixed furnishings and buffer plantings for the neighbors. And then there's an accessible route and fire access sort of tucked between the garage and the north property line. Planting design. So along the front, on the front edge on Highland, we are proposing 5 tupelo along Highland Ave to replace those 3 Norway maples that are being removed. The planter adjacent to the building will include a mix of flowering perennials to provide seasonal color and an opportunity for pollinator habitat. Plant heights will be designed to complement the swoop and respond to interior program with taller plants in front of the pool area, as was represented in some of the architectural renderings. Next slide. Just a quick image sort of showing our planting design process. So our planting design considers color, texture, and timing to create year-round interest. This just shows bloom times at a given time of year for the frontage on Highland. Next slide. Back garden concept is similar. A lot of flowering perennials and natives pollinator plants, but also incorporating some shrubs to maintain that buffer between the amenity spaces and the neighbors. Again, a bloom chart for the rear spaces. This is a detailed planting design if anyone's interested, but we can probably continue on. So some sections. So this section is at the entrance to the main entrance to the Y. You can see our swoop bench sitting under the canopy as you enter the building, the 6-foot amenity zone, and the 6-foot sidewalk. Moving westward. This is at the getting closer to the residential area, just showing the bike racks in the amenity zone and the vegetated buffer at the building. And this is essentially the same slide. So then in the rear, at the Y, there's a nice flat area to enable the Y to have varied programming out there with some limited amount of fixed seating at the perimeter, and then that the screen fence and the buffer plantings. And then up at the residential amenity space, similar design concept, a little bit more grade change to mitigate, but that's, I think, the rear. And then, so we also have the amenity deck over the 4-story garage entrance portion. So we have the programming around the perimeter of the building, but then there's that wing that gives us a lot more area to play with. And so the idea for this space is to create some more additional amenity space for Y programming and using planters to build up the edge to soften up and provide some planting on the roof deck. So there's the plan. You can see we're showing just bifurcated into 2 different spaces with some movable planters to allow for that flexibility. Movable planters throughout the community center and track area. Again, just trying to bring as much green as we can into this space. And then some of the plants that we're proposing for the roof deck piece. And the CAD plan, yeah, and that'll do it.
All right, so we've arrived at the end of our presentation. Happy to open up the floor.
So a question for Chris, maybe. Is there a dedicated outdoor space for the daycare preschool portion?
I think it's what's over the school street section, isn't it?
Yes.
So there's not a daycare per se, Tim, like not in the sense that state licensed daycare. This is why child programming. So it's a little bit different. There is this open space here for the residential building is for the required open space for the general building type here. This is intended to be back here functional and flexible Y programming space. Let's say there's an arts program and you want to spray cardboard with something, you can have a group back here. It's secure and things like that. But it is different from what you might think of as a daycare open space.
Okay. But there's no dedicated play space for the preschool. One of the reasons I ask is because my son went to YMCA preschool and experienced the space that's there currently.
Not at this time.
Okay. Sorry, just one other.
Oh, who was talking?
Oh, sorry, just to clarify, the preschool is located on the 3rd floor. Is that right? Of the building?
We have multiple floors that will have a childcare component. That hasn't been assigned right now, which floor that's going to be on.
Okay. Thanks.
So I was going to, so I think the massing of this project is really interesting, and especially where you ended up with it. I do have questions about the fenestration being too playful. I don't know. I feel like it's something that in 5-10 years you're going to say, well, that was done 5 or 10 years ago. There's something about the randomness that I don't think is supporting the ideas of the form. And I guess I wish, especially that major block was just more organized than it is right now. Not necessarily completely regular, but maybe it's somewhat reflective of the functions behind it, but the windows are maybe bigger than other places or smaller, just to give that block that holds the swoop, holds it and is just gives it something to move against. Right now it just feels like too much going on in the facade. And I think it would be more elegant if there was some deliberateness to the fenestration, especially the large lower block that has the aquatic center and child care or child programs and what was that, the gym and all that. And so in general, I do think that this would benefit from just calming down a little bit. Um,
Do you
and just more
do you
just more unification of it, and also that the uh the piece behind the home on School Street. I don't know if you need a material change there. If it's a part of the program, maybe it's integrated as a part of the building as opposed to something that sort of has an uncomfortable corner between, that four-story addition and I mean the four-story element and the main building. So I think it would be more interesting if it was more integrated. I do like the move to not divide the street level. I think that's really successful. I think that's going to be, that's how people are going to experience this, especially the community that walk by it. And I think it's really cool. And I would like things to support that. And again, more regularity or some logic, not necessarily a boring rhythm, but a logic to the way windows are placed there. And then they're more distinct in size. Either they're much smaller than the windows everywhere else, or they're generally larger than the windows everywhere else. So those are my initial comments. But
do you prefer
I do
do you
think it's
prefer
pretty
version
exciting. I think a pretty exciting thing to be happening on Highland Street.
do you prefer version one of the two options where the top is a little bit more calmed down?
Um, that's a good.
Well, one,
Yeah.
two.
So I guess the windows are not necessarily calmed down, but the inset patterning calms down on
Hmm.
the first one.
Yeah,
There we go.
yeah, yeah. The windows are more. Yeah, yeah. And then I
So an
think there can be
interesting
some variety at the lower, but it's just the scale is too similar to all the other fenestration. If from my eye, yeah, I do like that better.
maybe an interesting piece of context that we heard in some of the outreach that we did alongside the Y. There was a lot of community outreach here with a lot of different groups, and one of the things we heard, which we thought was pretty interesting, we've always thought of the Y, from its siting and its use as really being part of the civic campus, along with City Hall, library, and the school as well. One of the things that we heard, and that's really what's behind a lot of the material choices that we have, right? It wants to feel part of that. But one of the things that we heard, especially from younger respondents, was that they really wanted the Y building to feel like their own space and to not feel like an institutional building, so not feel like it's exactly an extension of those other institutional elements. Although I would say there's a lot of positives associated with those buildings, but that's a little bit what's behind the level of playfulness. And kind of the refinement that you see here is to have this, feel like it's part of the Central Hill campus, but also feel like it's reflecting the character, energy, and individuality of what's happening, inside.
Yeah, I think well, one comment about that is it would be nice at night to be able to see what's happening inside. Have it controlled, be able to understand a little bit of what's happening. Especially the aquatics, the aquatics program, which is just going to have a different quality of light in it than the other sections. But it just, again, I think some larger windows. I really, I said they could all be smaller windows, but, and I'm not suggesting it's ordered, but it just isn't, this feels random to me. And I don't think, ultimately, I think it could be more than that. I think it could have some of that, the larger spaces have some really large pieces of glass and, little peekaboos. Maybe you are very deliberate about some of the places where kids are looking out and, but that there's a little more order to it. I do like the terracotta that you're using here,
Yeah.
the texture and stuff, and maybe using that, the whatever order you bring to the windows, it has an interest, it plays interest in an interesting way. Yeah, see, these are all still, I mean, that's very horizontal, but I feel like you're not providing there's a lot of variety to the program behind
Yeah.
there. And there's not a lot of variety with the windows, with the fenestration. And it could be, I think you could capture both things.
It sounds like what you're suggesting is not necessarily more regularity, but more of a logic too, and a logic to what is placed where. Because I agree, I look at this and I say, "Where's the basketball court?" And I couldn't point to where it is based on a reading of the facade, and it would be nice to be able to do that. And similarly, with if there is kind of the peekaboo moment, kind of the small apertures, it would be great to see where that is, and for a parent that drops their kid off to be able to point up to, where that moment is. So I think it's maybe introducing more intentionality into the facade, not necessarily making everything the same, but almost more variation, but an intentionality to that variation.
Okay, but yes, the feedback certainly understood, and I think one of the things that this facade accomplishes, which may not, be welcome in the commission's eyes, is there is a level of variation between the spaces, but it is in some levels concealed by the fact that there is a patchwork motif all the way across the facade that doesn't necessarily directly point to those individual elements. And some of that is quite frankly born from the fact that there's going to need to be very specific program elements in very specific places, right? And it doesn't always lend itself to a blended facade. But there's always more levels of study here, right? For example, so something like pulling up the glazing in the basketball court 6 feet above the floor so that you don't have somebody trip, fall, and go through the glass is one of the responsive areas of the facade that is there, but maybe not sort of present or directly referenced, providing more entries where people are running across the running track here. So you'll be able to see people move across the track here and, have that level of movement, and then larger openings, obviously with the fitness component, and then the childcare component, having a high low where you've got an element where you might have, teaching materials or things like, up on the wall high, a small space for kids to gather low, and then a larger primary opening, things like that are baked into the facade, but maybe not as clearly one-to-one associated with the individual spaces.
Yeah, I think you could also use a material. You maybe don't want all these gestures to be glass, especially if you were trying to make a big gesture. So maybe there's an alternate material that's used to help set that somewhat large piece of glass into something that makes it even larger, even having an even larger impact on being a larger element on that facade composition. So maybe it's got a little more layering to it, like it's a metal, it's the color of the mullions or whatever, but it's some alternate surface that starts to give this that larger scale. I mean, the panels start to organize it a little bit. They're sort of the sense of panels. But again, I feel like it's not, I don't think it's supporting the massing and the elegance of the massing.
Wondering about the reveals, the kind of vertical lines. In different views, they read very dark. But is the intent, or maybe you can talk a little about the intent of those.
These reveals here?
Yes.
Yeah. So the intent in this gets into the facade guidelines as well, design guidelines, that for facades longer than 200 feet, that they talk about having a clear vertical break along the facade. So one, that is speaking to that, but it's not, we didn't include these just to meet the letter of that law. What these also do as well, and Deborah, you kind of missed the concept phase that we had earlier, but the idea behind the massing and the swoop and some of the moves is all about movement. And that's kind of the big concept behind this. And so having these breaks that increase in module along, kind of follow, reach an inflection point and bounce off of that and create movement across the facade is really, really the idea behind creating a rhythm that is not static across the facade.
Yeah. So I have a few more comments on a couple different aspects. I think overall, in every aspect that you've responded to, it feels like there's improvements here. So appreciate the presentation and the work that you've put into this. I agree with Martin. I'd expected to see a kind of study of a three-story piece, especially now knowing that the transformer was able to go elsewhere. It still feels like, first of all, I think the facade studies that you've done for the four-story piece on school feel like a significant improvement architecturally, but it still feels very much like an appendage to the building. And Deborah's comment was interesting. I wonder whether, so I think one thing that would change that is breaking the cornice line. If this was to be a three-story piece, it would be something that's more distinct from the rest of the volume of the building. And you'd have a terrace at a lower floor, perhaps adjacent to a preschool or daycare element, if that worked with your program. But perhaps it's also carrying this facade language onto the other face of the building that's facing in kind of inside to the lot, and then breaking it at a certain point as you get closer to the lobby, and then it becomes your Highland Avenue facade that's still three-dimensional. It's coming around the corner, but it's not coming all the way back to this inside corner. And so you have your kind of dynamic, your movement. Yeah, exactly. And maybe the break line, I don't know, is it here that you're breaking it, and then the other facade is coming around the corner, and you do something to break it at the cornice line as well. I'm not sure, but that might help.
I mean, one of the things that we didn't want to have an impression of was that there was just a really high powered facade just along Highland Ave, and right in that it was just kind of planar in that aspect. So I think that would be an area, Tim, where we would be looking at, if you break this or move it at some point, you don't want it necessarily to feel like it's only happening, or we didn't want it to feel like at the time like it's only happening along Highland Ave. So.
Yeah, no, that's understood. And I think what you're doing at that corner there at the house lot with the change in plane between the lower floor and the upper floors is really nice. But I don't think it has to carry all the way back to that inside corner. And in fact, that face is very different than a Highland Ave, facing facade. Another comment on the ground level. I really like the diagram that you included. Yeah, exactly. Showing kind of this idea of the gradient across this facade. But as I look at some of the images, I don't necessarily see that incorporated in what's being designed. Yeah, I mean, maybe it starts to show up there, but some of the renderings show kind of equal width mullions all the way across that facade. Yeah, here. I mean, it feels like there's one facade type that has the fret on it, and maybe there's a change in opacity across that, and then we transition to the facade with the mullions. But the difference in, whether it's mullion width or probably mullion plus a metal panel, it I think that needs to be more apparent.
Okay. Yeah. So there is an overlap in the frit and the fin areas as well. And one of the things that we looked at, instead of we're varying the width and the depth of these fin elements rather than spacing them out. One, because at some point, you have a lot of extra verticals that you need to add, right? If you try and have a very smooth transition here. So by being able to play with the depth of the fins allows for a very smooth transition across the top. It's something that we could obviously look at, but that was sort of the reason behind it. And maybe here you start to see sort of the overlap and the blending between the frit fading out and coming through here as well.
So what is the variation in width that you see? And maybe you haven't fully worked it out yet, but like the range.
It's 4'6". And you mean in the depth?
No, in the individual elements, the change in the depth of the fin and then the change in the width of the.
Yeah, so you're going from a 5/8 cap up to a 4-inch cap, and you're going from 1 inch wide to 3 inches wide as well across the whole length. Maybe this here kind of shows that deeper, and then you see that tapering and overlapping here.
Just a question. Did you explore inverting the diagram where the kind of more solid pieces are more towards if you go back to your diagram, more at the aquatics where you don't want the transparency, and then the smaller elements are as you get farther out?
We thought about it and we discussed it a lot internally. I mean, ultimately, we want to do two things with the aquatic center. Is the current aquatic center in the basement, does not have a lot of light. So we want light and privacy at the same time. So having the frit in the center sort of allows us to have both of those elements at the same time, rather than bringing more solid into the center of the building, which would just be 100% opaque, obviously. So that was kind of the driver behind that, and that allows us to keep a lot of the kind of solid fin elements happen at the taller double height spaces on either side. So we're really trying to get as much light, transparency into all of these spaces, as possible, connecting to the community and the pedestrian experience, et cetera.
Okay.
Quickly, just onto the landscape. Oh, sorry, if there's any more. In terms of a little bit about the light and the fenestration, and then at the aquatic center, I'm a little skeptical that a 3-foot wide planter box will provide that kind of height necessarily. But also it seems like then it would be kind of negating the light question. I think, but in general, I have some questions just about the planter boxes in front, and then there's one, if you go to, I think, one of the views of the housing, the corner. Yeah. Oh, yeah. This little guy here feels very sort of vestigial, and I'm not really sure that it's, I think again, like with the 3-foot wide one that's across the whole front of the building, I think it's an interesting move, and I think I'm not sure it'll look remotely like that, but it could. But then this little guy here, I sort of feel like it's either don't bother or
Expand it.
or bring it all the way to the door,
Yep.
or have it be a bit more of a proper gesture. Just, I mean, because that one especially seems much smaller, and I'm just picturing it being mostly mulch, as we
Sure.
In real life. And the second question just is a question about the rails around the tree pits, and the motivation for that. And it doesn't seem like, I don't believe that's a Somerville standard, so it's just wondering why.
It's a
why
city
you were-
reg.
Is it? Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
it's a new one in the new zoning. Yeah.
Okay. Then I retract that. That's
And
but yeah, yeah, so forget the tree pit question, but yeah, just that little the landscape in front of the building is just made me raise an eyebrow.
Sure. And before, sorry, Chris, just
Go ahead.
before we answer, Deborah, for the back of your brain, the 3-foot planter in the front, there is a zoning setback minimum and maximum and a requirement for a step back. We went over this in the first presentation, that really has a very small zone for where this building face could be to be zoning compliant. And that's really what's behind driving the relationships in the space that we have for the planter zone. But Chris, please continue.
Yeah, I think all fair points. The planter that you're looking at in the sort of center of the screen there, if we could shift the doors and expand it, I'd be all for it. I think our goal was to try and get a little bit of green in there. We had the space, keep the green along the building frontage consistent. We do have the planter, the vertical separation, so I do think that we have a shot at keeping it green. We are using robust perennials, and I think the thinking is that with maintenance and attention, they'll need to be, obviously, the it's a difficult environment, but I think it's something that could be maintained, is our thinking. Um, and then, to your point about whether or not we'll be able to achieve that in the along the whole face, I think we feel pretty good about it. And then in terms of the the planter fencing, that's we
Yeah,
have
that's
one of our colleagues at Stantec is on the Somerville Tree Commission, so she knew what we needed to do.
gotcha. Understand. That's new to me, so apologies there.
All good.
Yeah, I guess I can go. I would say generally speaking, sort of echoing what Tim said earlier, it's a lot of work. I really appreciate seeing all of the studies, especially for a second review. This is a lot more than what we normally get to look at, which is great and really, really helpful. I I can definitely see Deborah's comments about the windows, expressing a little bit more of the program. The way they are, it doesn't really bother me that much. But I can definitely see that comment and how that makes sense. I think of the two versions, I prefer version one, where the top is a little bit more chill, um, generally speaking. Um, I think the terracotta and all the patterning is really beautiful on this one. I need the color insets a little bit less. Like those to me kind of feel like the Coco Chanel thing that you could probably take off because I think the patterning and the terracotta is really, really lovely. And I don't know that I need those little pops of color personally. Um, I know you gave us the version where the break per the zoning code interrupts the glass on the bottom. I think that that's what the zoning code calls for. I also don't like it. So I hope that that can be worked out with whoever is reviewing this from a technical, whoever makes that final decision. I don't think it meets the letter of the law, but I think it should be allowed because I think it's significantly better. Um, I like the addition of the bench. I think that makes a ton of sense. It's a limited space. I would much rather have a place for people to be able to sit and gather than a really difficult planting environment as it narrows down and makes that curve. So that's a really nice touch. And I'm really happy to see that.
Yeah,
The
great.
sections are super, super helpful. The just the rendering, it doesn't look like a 12-foot space. So seeing that confirmed is great. Um, I appreciate the grading being provided on the landscape plan. That helps. And I can sort of see there's a 3-foot change, it looks like, and that's nice to see that's being reconciled without ramps. Um, I I think I echo Martin's comment about the School Street edition. I would prefer it to be 3 feet. I think it does still look really looming. I do appreciate what you guys have done. If it has to be 4 feet, I do prefer it looking different than the rest of the building. It just, when we get to that corner rendering and you see the existing building, it with it with it being uniform, to me, it looks very batteries not included, the movie from the 80s, kind of just attacking that little building. So to me, having it look like a different building as much as it can is preferable. Being 3 stories would help more. But if this is where we are, if this is where we are, like this is an improvement from last time.
Yeah, I would note that
Thank you.
the city council changed the zoning for the parcels here, including the little house on the corner, all to MR6, and that the school street where there's currently an apartment building there now, went from UR to MR6. So we're not going as high as we could, just to be.
Yep. Nope, understood. Just within the context of what we're looking at here.
I understand.
Not
just to let you know that
not from a zoning standpoint.
Right.
Yeah, and I would be happy to share kind of one more study that we had there because understanding the commission's feedback, obviously, I think you're hearing that the program impacts to even just that fourth story is quite dear, right? And we're going to have to go back as a team and really discuss, kind of our approach and response, a little bit further. But we did study to the extent that I was actually, bringing rather than the white, bringing a fourth story here, Tim, wouldn't be a full break, but breaking the corner sign here, either bringing it up to fly by or down. We've got about a foot or so. We could bring down one of those two to provide a break. Might be something that kind of helps to mitigate that. And we'll see if I had an additional study. I don't know if I've got a close up there of this happening. I could, maybe pull that up. But again, we did study again, the attic story. Look to the top there, which, Andrew, to your point, we did hear kind of the feedback from last time was looking at the school street facade, really looking a little bit like a different building, harmonious with the rest, but not necessarily blending the more civic architecture of the Highland Street facades, all the way around to School Street. So maybe this darker upper story reinforces that a little bit more by having that clear visual break.
Yeah, I mean, I would hope that as you're walking up School Street, that it does feel different when you are walking up School Street and then you turn the corner onto Highland, that those don't feel the same, which I think the version that we're looking at now, I'm imagining myself at as a pedestrian level and uh, hoping that that's what that feels like. So what do we do next, guys?
So the top two stories of the building, one of the things we talked about last time was potentially studying curving the corners of them, both to reduce the apparent mass, but also to make your architectural concept more three-dimensional, and then also to make the track more functional too, as the footprint of the building goes basically to the edges of the track. Is that something you looked at?
I mean, ultimately, no, because sculpting those corners would take us beyond our maximum setback for zoning, and we're trying to stay obviously, within for the major components of this building, within the zoning guidelines. So, what I will note actually is because we voluntarily have additional setback that's not required on the side yard, we've pushed this building back further above. So you actually, I don't know if it shows up very well, but you pass the end of the building before you turn for the track as well. So you're not sort of turning and just grazing the corner at the same time. It doesn't, I'm trying to think of a plan that maybe shows that.
It was on the, yeah, it was on one of the
Yeah,
plans.
I'll give you all a quick kind of peek up here. Right. So there is a level of gracefulness. This is also these are larger than standard issue lanes right now. So there's a whole technical aspect to this, but there is some grace built into the running experience of the top of the building.
But just to clarify, are you saying that you cannot curve the corners because it would not be zoning compliant?
Correct. We are directly at the limit of our 15-foot maximum setback.
So the outer
and a maximum.
That Highland facing facade of the upper two stories is 15 feet back.
Correct.
Got it.
It's not giving us this view. We'll try this
If
preferred upper.
So here's a question for you. If zoning was not constraining you, is it something that you and YMCA would be interested in studying further?
The Y is very interested in delivering a lot of program onto the site, significantly more at a significant cost. Rounding corners, stepping back further, beyond the big concept, moves that are accomplishing a lot. It adds a lot of structural complexity to an upper level of the building that has a significant cost associated with it. That's a major impact. So not likely that the group would be interested in really studying that in probably the substantive level that you're thinking of. Really rounding those corners, having cladding materials, and I don't know some visuals here for you guys as well. But we're talking about rounding cladding materials, not being able to have the functionality of windows on a curved or tougher to pull windows off. There's a lot of kind of knock-on effects there that make the square corners a pretty high priority for these upper levels.
What's next, guys? Making some recommendations, or where are we going?
We would like that so we could go to get our second neighborhood meeting and move this process along. That would be fantastic.
Well, did we vote on this? Did we take any votes on this the last
No.
time?
No.
Nope. And just to clarify, we will have to vote on the two lots separately. So if we do decide to vote, they will have to be for the 101 Highland Ave facade design guidelines, massing options, and additional design guidance, and then the separate residential development 107 Highland Ave.
That's right.
But yeah, is the commission ready to move forward with voting on
Yes.
101
I'd
Highland
be
Ave?
comfortable voting on a preferred facade option, it being this one, as presented. I think, I think a number of the comments that we made are related to compliance with the design guidelines, so there could be additional study. I think we could discuss whether it's something that's additional study that happens after this commission's review, or whether we'd like it to come back. I'm curious, Deborah, what you think. I think you had the most comments.
Yeah, I think the massing, has that been voted on? The massing strategy, we could proceed with that. I guess I would like to see the facades one more time. But whatever we can approve at this point, I think I would support.
Yeah, I would just know because I don't know, you weren't here last time, Deborah, but I think Louis maybe said that we're not the Y building, the massing options. That was just provided as a courtesy. That's not for the commission to vote on.
Okay.
It's just the massing on the residential building because it's 7 stories.
Got it.
So oh yeah, go, Andrew.
So approving the massing seems like pretty doable. I don't know. Let's just
For
let's
107 Highland, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, presume, because we're not taking a vote on the massing, I guess. Is that right? Or are we taking a vote?
Only for 107 Highland, which is the residential development, not the community
Got it.
center.
Okay. Yeah, I think you take that
Okay.
vote. So moved.
Second.
Thanks, Tim. And a second from Deborah. And so the motion on the table is to proceed with the preferred option for 107 Highland. And now we will move for the 107 Highland massing option. And so we will now move to a roll call vote. Andrew Arbaugh,
Yes.
Deborah Fennick,
Yes.
Martin Pavlinich,
Yes.
and Tim Talon.
Yes.
And so that motion passes. So we also, do you all want to continue voting for or making motions for the residential development? So that includes as well facade design guidelines and any additional design guidance.
Could we bring that image up just so we can see it as we're voting on it? Just to
Yeah, I may ask Mr. Fee, my colleague, to pull it up. You all may notice this fun spinning wheel up at the top, but
Oh,
it's
it happens.
Chris,
I
are
can
you
share it.
able? Thank
You
you.
got it? Yeah, just which slide are we looking at?
Let's try 22. Let's move back to uh yeah. Let's step forward 2 slides. Trying to get to Andrew's favorite. There we go.
So are we prepared to vote on the facade on this, or Deborah, do you want to see this one more time?
One more time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then
And
do we need
now after all the conversation, we probably want to see how it returns behind the house also.
And are you okay to vote on the facade for the
Residential.
the 107 Highland?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So we've voted on massing. Now can I get a motion to approve the preferred facade option for 107 Highland the residential development? And so that is, yes. That includes without the full break that the design team showed.
Yes.
Yes.
So motioned.
Thank you, Andrew.
Second.
Thank you, Martin. Second from Martin. And the motion on the table is to approve the facade treatment for the residential development on 107 Highland. And we will move to a roll call vote. Andrew Arbaugh,
Yes.
Deborah Fennick,
Yes.
Tim Talon,
Yes.
Martin Pavlinich.
Yes.
And so this motion is passed. Trying to, and then we can also motion to approve design guidelines for 107 Highland, as well as the design guidance, which includes expanding the plant bed at the entry that Martin referenced, so that we can take care of 107 Highland. Does that sound right to the commission?
Say expanding or removing.
Expanding or removing, exactly.
I'd be fine if it went away too.
Yeah.
Okay. So can I get a motion to that this project meets design guidelines?
So moved.
Thank you, Martin. And a second?
Second.
Thank you, Deborah. And now for a roll call vote, Andrew Arbaugh,
Yes. And I say that like I don't think it actually needs design guidelines. I think the break is the design guidelines, but I prefer this, and I don't know if we can put that in there, but yes, this is what should get built.
thank you. Deborah Fennick,
Yes.
Martin Pavlinich,
Yes.
and Tim Talon.
Yes.
Great. And then the last vote is the additional guidance to expand or remove the plant bed in front of the entry at 107 Highland.
So motioned.
Thank you, Andrew. And a
Second.
second. Thank you, Martin. Roll call vote. Andrew Arbaugh,
Yes.
Deborah Fennick,
Yes.
Martin Pavlinich,
Yes.
and Tim Talon.
Yes.
Great. So this motion also passes. And so we are all covered for 107 Highland. We do need to decide whether we want to, so we can motion to continue for the facade. And then how do you all, is what I was hearing based off of your comments, Deborah. And then design guidelines and additional design guidance, or we can all just wait for the final or for the next presentation and vote on these three for that.
I think based on Deborah's comments, we want to see it again. But that said, like, and I can ask, I don't think we need to see landscape again. I think that seems relatively resolved, unless Martin or you guys feel differently.
I'm happy with it.
Just in terms of streamlining, if you guys are coming back again, streamlining it as much as possible.
Yeah. And also, just to clarify, it's only one facade option. We're not asking for multiple.
Yeah.
Great. So commission, what would you all prefer to do? Should we motion to continue?
I think that's where we are as we're continuing
Great.
the larger building.
Yes, so this is for 101 Highland Ave, and can I have a motion to continue?
So moved.
Thank you, Deborah. And a
Second.
second. Thank you, Martin. And a roll call vote. Andrew Arbaugh,
Yes.
Deborah Fennick,
Yes.
Martin Pavlinich,
Yes.
and Tim Talon.
Yes.
Great. And so that motion passes. And thank you all, design team, and we will see you soon.
When can
Before
you
we
just
leave, can I
ask
ask-
like when would we need to file things for that?
And Lexi, do you have a sense of that timeline and schedule?
It would be 1 week before our next meeting if you wanted to, or one week before any meeting you want to be on. If y'all don't have time to do it before the next meeting, then it would be the next one is January 27th, so I would need it on January 20th for the next meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next one is February 10th. And I would need it by February 3rd for the first February meeting.
All right. Thank you, Lexi.
And I would say, since this is they're going to be their third time, and we canceled 2 meetings in December, if they get it in time, we should prioritize getting it on the schedule and getting it early in the schedule.
I would
All right.
agree.
Yeah, for
Right.
sure.
Thank you. And just for point of clarity, the primary study that we would be providing would be a revised terracotta facade, looking at both the Highland Avenue and then how that turns the corner, and then any interface or update to the school street that the design team chooses to make. Does that sound right?
Sounds good.
Yes. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commission.
Thanks.
And last but not least, we have the design review for 359 Lowell Street. And participants, please. Okay, we have Alan who has his hand raised to present. And so this is an MR4 apartment building, and we will be voting on facade, design guidelines, massing options, and additional design guidance. Lexi, are you able to promote Alan Builder?
Yep.
Thank you.
Second. And anybody else that wants to be promoted, just raise your hand.
Hi everyone. Let me share my screen.
Yes, and just as a reminder, Alan, you have 20 minutes to present.
Okay, sure. So this is our design, and then the existing is the existing building right now is like the 2-story mixed use. And then we are going to add 2 more floor and then make it as like the 15-unit residential building in this area. And then so for every unit is like from 400 to 1,000 square feet, depends on the location. I will show on the floor plan. So here is like the plot plan for the site, and then so you can see like it's like we only have the 30 feet facing to the street, and then the another 3 direction is facing to the neighbor. So our design need to here's the existing floor plan, and then here's like the so for the design, we want to dip down the first floor, and then we want to create the basement, and then just put the office. We want to connect the first floor and then the basement, like creating the loft, three loft union in this area, and then the basement is like used as office, and then some like some mechanical. And because the first floor we created like used for the ADA, we try to match the ADA. So we put the kitchen and then living room and then the full bath on the first floor. And also we put the some of the by parking room and then the storage on the in the basement, the long-term storage and long-term parking in the basement. And so also the red dash line is like the property line, so you can see it's like very tight. So uh, so I try to just like on the how to say, in the first floor you can see like they have two entrance, and then I created the 3 feet like hallway to connect the two, just that people have the way to get into the building. And yeah, and then let me see. Here is the second floor and then third floor. They are all like similar, but the problem is like the second floor, because the rear side, we want to keep the existing like the floor, and then the existing like the exterior wall. So the level between these two areas is like different. So I create the stair to connect the existing area and then the new area. So, the floor is like here. And then the third floor and then the fourth floor, because they are the new construction, so they are all like the same level. Yeah. So also I forget to explain. So we have 5 unit is like the 2 bedroom, and then the 10 unit is like the 1 bedroom here. So this is the first floor, and then we also have the because the site is we don't have extra space, so we want to create the green roof on the top of the building, and then all the plan are like the local plan. Yes, local plan, and all the salt, because like the construction limit, so I just try to limit the depth of the salt for each area. Okay, let's go next. And here's the existing elevation. So this is the option 1. So for the facade, like I try to add the block here, the existing block, and then you can see it's not a lot of window just because all the exterior were very close to the property line. So we just for the fire requirement, I cannot add a lot of like window. So all the windows here are like, because I put it like I moved the wall back 3 feet here. Yeah, 3 feet here to let the window match to let the wall match the core, and so I can put the window on it. So, and then all the material are like, I have 3 new material in this on this like building. And this is the one like face to the parking. This is one on the rail. Yep. Oh, okay. So this is one like the on the rail, and then also here is like the left one is facing to the street, and then the left one is facing to the other side. But because I did not add the windows on the right one because like it's very close to the another like building. I think it's almost touched to the another building, so I cannot like open any like opening on this wall. So, and then this is the option 2. They are all the like same material, but just like put it like different area. Try to make it like look not very boring because I cannot add a lot of windows on the wall. So yeah, and then here is another side. And also I have here some other design. And then the last one, I delete the call it name. Oh, I delete the metal composite here, and then just make it like simple material. And then yeah, let's see. So I have some rendering here. Here's the option 1. So it's like the white color with the black like line to like make it like not very boring, and also have some like wood color to point out some like different area. And next one is like the option 2. It's like also the similar design, but just like put it the different area. And here we have the third option is just one color, but it's not white color. It's like the how is it? It's like the blue, almost like gray, but it's like the blue color. Yes. And here's like the green calculation. Also, this area is the first floor, so so I just add all the green, and then just calculate it's like it's match the code. It's match the code here. And then also I have some like the parking associates here to shows like what kind of the parking like locker we use, the rate we use in this building. And this is the short term we use for the short term bike parking area. And also we have the double rate for the long term bike parking area. Yes. I think that's it. Thank you.
Do you have a site plan that shows this in context, that shows what's around it?
Sorry, can you say it?
Do you have a site plan that shows this proposed building in context, that shows?
No, I only have the like show the existing, but I put the like the property line here to shows like the building and then the property line.
I went and Googled it. It's like a block off of Magoon, sort
Yeah.
of.
So I think that's, yeah, go ahead.
I mean, I can jump in on the landscape. Uh, appreciate the roof terrace in terms of providing a lot of space and planting ability. I would really encourage a landscape architect to review the plan and to contribute on this one. Right now, we only really have two species being proposed. New Jersey tea is the only species on the roof. Blueberry, high bush blueberry is the only species on the ground. There's room for a lot more species diversity up there, just in general.
Yep.
I would also note that the 10-inch soil depth is not enough for a New Jersey tea, and the spacing is pretty bizarre. So I would really encourage a landscape architect to look at this. I have questions about how you would actually access some of those raised planters for maintenance based on the current plan. I don't understand. I'm assuming it's sedum in between, but I'm not seeing that actually specifically called out. So I'm kind of taking a guess at that. So there's just a general level of next phase on the roof terrace. While I appreciate that it's there, um, it's not working in its current layout and soil depths. I would also really encourage against high bush blueberry. Adjacent to an existing building, Somerville has a lot of lead in its soil as a result of just paint scraping on old buildings. So unless that soil has been tested and verified, I would not put anything that is easy to eat that can suck up lead right there on that level. In the renderings, the high bush blueberry is also rendered at like 2 feet tall, which it is not. It's a much larger plant once it starts to grow as well.
Okay.
I would say back to Tim's question about the context, that it's very hard to evaluate alternatives without understanding the context. And I do think that's a requirement of, a submission requirement in order for us to be able to comment on things.
Yeah, it's incredibly difficult to kind of tell what the building really looks like. And anything about the materiality is really difficult to discern um, until we get to the renderings, and the renderings are still not giving that much information in terms of the materiality.
Okay.
I think we need to see it in terms of its proximity to the buildings around it, understanding what buildings are around it, what the character of Lowell Street is like in this location. And that is a submittal requirement. And also, I mean, the thing that jumps out at me looking at this is how much solid wall there is.
Yeah.
There's almost no windows. I assume it's because you're building right up to the property line and you can't put windows on a property line. But zoning has a minimum fenestration requirements. I find is this as proposed? Is this meeting those requirements?
So for my research, it's like if you want to put the normal window, is you need to at least 5 feet to put the normal window. But if you want to put the fire rate glass, you need to at least 3 feet from the property line.
Yeah, I think that's building code, but I'm talking about zoning.
Oh, zoning. Sorry. Can you ask the question again?
Is what you have proposed compliant with zoning requirements related to the amount of glazing that needs to be on facades?
Um, it's yeah, it's a question, but just because like I cannot add a lot of windows, so this is why I just try and it's hard to meet the coverage, the glass coverage, you know.
I feel I
And are
understand.
there
Oh, sorry.
are there no setback requirements? No side or rear setbacks?
So
required?
this one is like all the setback is 0, as I can show. So all the setback can be 0 here.
This feels like maybe one that needs to be worked with and vetted with the planner a little bit more before we do a lot more comment, because there's some things that are questionable and are not our responsibility or jurisdiction to review related to compliance.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
Right. And just for reference, Alan, what Tim and Andrew are referencing is the Somerville zoning ordinance, right? And so you will see within our zoning ordinance in the municipal code under Section 4, mid-rise districts, MR4, which is 4.2, there are apartment building standards that this building has to meet. And all of the setbacks and on the primary front, the secondary, the side, that in addition to submitting all of the documents that this commission has to review, which we are not seeing fully, right? So we aren't seeing thorough specificity in materials, especially with your facade options, nor are we seeing enough renderings or fully fledged or fleshed out landscape plans. So
A motion to continue.
Second.
If I could add something really quick, Alan, if you have any questions about compliance with the zoning ordinance, I believe Nick has the email to ISD, so you can send a request if you misunderstand anything in the zoning ordinance about fenestration or setbacks or anything like that. You can send a request via email to them.
Okay, sure.
So the motion on the table is to continue and revisit this at a later date with a second or a motion from Tim, second from Deborah, and now we'll move to a roll call vote. Andrew Arba,
Yes.
Deborah Fennick,
Yes.
Martin Pavlinich,
Yes.
and Tim Talon.
Yes.
All right, and with that, this motion passes, and we will see you and this project again in the future, Alan. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much.
And okay,
Sure.
and last other business, Lexi, you said that the membership website list is updated.
Yes.
Thank
And
you for that.
then a small reminder for our commission to just please respond to the email about 2026 availability for meeting attendance. And we have heard the request to get a conversation on the agenda about in-person meetings. So that will go on as well. Any
Thank you.
other things before I request a motion to close?
Yeah, I guess when we do talk about in-person meetings, it would be helpful just to have an actual confirmation of our actual ability to have in-person meetings. So when we have the discussion, we can talk about scheduling them.
Do you mean within the
Yeah.
commission?
Yes.
Like commission members? Okay.
Yeah, also Dan is having a meeting. I'm unsure if it's like within the next few weeks about boards and commissions with the new mayor, and it's more so like whether the council chambers will be available in certain areas in City Hall for us to hold these. So I'll speak to Dan this week and ask him about the status, and then I'll add that to our next agenda as well.
Okay.
Great.
I don't think
Thank you,
our hope
Lexi.
is to ever do every meeting in person. just one would be great.
Yeah.
Quarterly.
Quarterly would be lovely. It'd be
Yeah.
great to see Deborah after 6 years.
I've gotten shorter.
I'm very tall. Who knew?
Deborah's gotten shorter. These meetings will not go on any longer.
I saw
motion.
Stello in person last night and we barely recognized each other.
I know. I was like, I know you, but
Yeah. Be great to meet Martin. Hi.
Yeah.
That's
Yes,
right.
agreed.
yes, a motion to adjourn. Anyone?
Motion to
motion.
adjourn.
Thank you, Deborah. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Martin. And a roll call vote. Andrew Arba,
Yes.
Deborah Fennick,
Yes.
Martin Pavlinich,
Yes.
and Tim Talon.
Yes.
Right. And with that, this meeting is adjourned at 8:37 p.m. and see you in 2 weeks. Thank you, Commission.
Thank you for
Bye,
keeping
guys.
us moving us all.
Yeah, I know. Honestly impressive that we're out of here by
Very well run.
8:57.
Thank you.
I
Bye,
try, I
y'all.
try.
All right. Good night.
Bye-bye.